Greetings, Guzzlers. We're cooking Mughal style tonight. Don't know why the bloody hell I've got a wand in my hand. Because for all you Harry Potter fans, it's got bugger all to do with Harry Potter. It's not those sort of Muggles. It's Muggles to do with India. So I might as well get rid of that. And then start getting rid of this. I said Mughal. This is a dish derived from the Mughal Empire. Not to be confused with the Mongol, although there is a slight connection there. But this one is to do with the Mughal Empire. Okay, and it is going to be Pasand steak with a cucumber, coriander and mint Raita. Don't pronounce that one. Right. So, but before we do anything, I mean, it's a relatively simple dish, and cooking wise, it's really simple. But we need to marinate our steak first. So I've got some sirloin steaks over there. We'll get them in a minute, but first we're going to make our marinade. And for that, I'm going to want a big bunch of coriander. And I'm going to chop that up, and then I'm halving it because I want half for the marinade and half for the Raita, or whatever you call it. Equally, I've got some mint leaves there. I'll pick them off the big bunch, and we're going to finely chop them and put them into 2 bowls again, because again, half of it is going in the marinade. It's a pity to get rid of them stalks because there's a lot of flavour in coriander stalks. I think I might have mentioned that before. If I haven't, I'm just mentioning it now. But unfortunately, I haven't got anything that wants it. So that's my coriander just about all chopped up. Cut that in half as it goes. And like I say, we're putting half in one dish for our marinade, and the other half in the other dish for our Raita. Really ought to work that out and pronounce that one. Where shall I put that? Let me put that there. No, there. Probably going to fall over now. I called it Pasand steak because that's what she called it in a book, and the life of me, I can't remember how to pronounce the name of the book. I'll have to put it in my comments. But you probably more sort of recognise the word pasanda, and it's quite a common dish in Indian restaurants in England. Okay, people have things like lamb pasanda and things like that. So pasanda is, but like I say, it's an Indian dish, but it's based on a dish created possibly by the Mughal Empire, the Mughal sort of court for the emperor and whatever. They did like their food, the Mughals. Now I'm only going to chop up half of this mint because the mint can go a bit black if you leave it too long after you've sort of hacked it about a bit, and we don't want that colour in our final Raita. Now, the Pasand comes from a Hindu Urdu word, basically Pasanda or Pasandi, which meant favourite, because it's referring to the fact that you usually had it with your finest, almost favourite, cuts of meat. Although we tend to think of pasanda as more of the sauce that you often associate with your curry. I mean, in England you can have lamb pasanda, prawn pasanda, chicken pasanda, but traditionally lamb or goat, or possibly beef, unless you were Hindu. I mean, you obviously wouldn't. And you can even have a vegetable pasanda. But this one is more, well, it's based on a meat-based one. So anyway, that's that chopped. Let me get that cleared off, and then we'll start assembling, although there's a few other little finer details I've got to do, like garlic and ginger, and we'll assemble our marinade and get our meat marinated. Do like my meat marinated. I've got a bowl I'm putting my marinade in, okay, but like I said, you cut the extra bits I've got to do. So I've got 3 cloves of garlic. You probably only want 1, but these are getting a bit old and stale, these garlic, so I've got a couple here. So I'm just going to peel them. He says try and take his fingers off. They don't want to bloody peel this one. So traditionally the meat would be hammered flat, cut into strips, although we're going to do the cutting afterwards and we're not actually going to hammer it out. Then, like I say, marinated before being fried, as it were. Often it might be just served with white rice or naan. We're just going to serve it with a accompaniment, which is a traditional accompaniment, or Indian accompaniment anyway, a yoghurt based one. So that's my garlic peeled, and then all I want to do now is just got some fresh ginger here. I say fresh, it's come out of the freezer. And I think I might mention it before. Normally I grate this directly. I don't bother peeling it. So you can take it straight out of the oven, take it straight out of the freezer. Do that while it's frozen. It grates really easy. But I don't really want the peel on this. And the only problem is it starts to go a bit soft. So I'm just going to clear that mess. Often, I should add, people associate Pasand with an almond or almond based curry sauce, and that is because you can have a version where you might decorate it with almonds, for instance, and that has a, oh no, what was that called? Something like a bundi Pasand. And then, like I say, from that, basically, we've associated quite often Pasand just with this typically sort of almondy sort of curry sauce. Oh, excuse me, but that's not what it is really. So like I say, I'm just going to clean up this little mess so we can get grating and assembling our marinade. I want basically about a heaped teaspoon of grated ginger. Like I say, this is a bit wet, so most of it's sticking all bottom of that. So we'll have to keep an eye on how much I'm adding in. Although I said to you actually that this is based on a Mughal recipe, when the Mughal Empire was 1500, 1600, so on, up to 1700, sort of, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. There is evidence suggesting that actually this dish derived from a much earlier recipe dating back to the 12th century. But who knows? There are lots of lavish cookbooks. The Mughals did like their illustrated books, not necessarily just because, you know, it was to get the recipes, but simply because they, you know, they were works of art, and so they liked them. So, like I say, there's that ginger, and then we're going to grate, basically. Be careful you don't take his fingers off this because he's quite sharp. About 3 smallish cloves of garlic, and then, other than actually chopping the remaining mint for the other accompaniment, and also we've just got to get the juice out of 1 lemon. We've done most of the what's name. So there you go. There's those 2 bits in there. Into there, I'm now going to add, now these are all teaspoon, all the dried spices are teaspoon amounts. I've got a teaspoon of ground cumin, a teaspoon of ground coriander. We've got the garlic, the ginger, and then a generous teaspoon of hot paprika, and then, if you can get it, Tesco don't have it, but you can get it elsewhere, a teaspoon of anardana, basically pomegranate seed powder. Okay, so in that goes. And then you want a teaspoon of chili flakes. In fact, I think it was a chili flakes just put in there. There's my anardana. And I might have misled you earlier saying that chopped mint and chopped coriander was going in there. It's not. I just realised it don't go in there. We serve that right at the end. So anyway, the next thing is I've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Just going to put that in there. And then I've got honey, a tablespoon of honey, which I'm now going to attempt to get out of there. So you obviously want runny honey for that. I'm starting to crystallise. We're just going to mix all that together, and that's going to be our marinade. So we're going to be needing to get our hands in there, because we've got to cover our steaks. So I'm going to put on gloves for that bit. Now, you will want some seasoning, some salt and pepper, but we can add that when we're about to cook the steaks. But what we're going to do is we're just going to coat these, get them nicely marinating, cover them with foil, and then we'll get on to making our cucumber, coriander and mint Raita. I've got 3 sirloin steaks. Essentially you want to make sure you've got enough for however many people you're serving. Like I say, you can flatten it out and, you know, split it out a bit. You can slice it up. We're slicing it once we've once we've cooked it. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that because that's driving me mad. It's getting in the bloody way. This Mughal cuisine, it basically is an Indo-Persian medieval cuisine based on, like I say, the areas from which the Mughal emperors, well, they didn't start out as emperors, but we'll come into that, where they came from. And it has gone on to influence the Indian subcontinent, or parts of Indian subcontinent, Central Asia and so on. It's influenced Pakistan cuisine, Bangladesh and other parts of Northern India. Right, so that's me meat coated. He says now getting the marinade over him. And we're now just going to cover that over with some foil, and you want to let this rest at room temperature for at least 30 minutes or longer. Okay, probably end up being longer. Madam's in the bath again, she's yakking on the phone for ages. Whilst I started, you might have heard her in the background. I had to shut the door in the end. But essentially, we're going to put that by to one side to marinade, and then we're going to, once I've just got rid of a bit of this mess, we're going to make this accompaniment, this Raita. Now for that you're going to want some cucumber, some yoghurt, and well, I'll tell you in a minute. Let's get cleaned up. Right, so I've had a little bit of a clean up. We're now going to make this accompaniment. Now for that you're going to want a teaspoon of cumin seeds. Okay, and I'm just going to put them in there along with what do I put in there? Hang on. Oh, that is right, yeah. Oh, getting thrown in. I'm thinking, hang on, dried mint. We've got got fresh mint. No, dried mint goes in there. And I'm just going to now just grind mainly that cumin seeds up. Okay. Preferably you want to lightly toast the cumin seeds. Okay, to help start releasing some of the aroma. Okay. And then you've got 300 grams of full fat Greek yoghurt. Well, it's not really full fat because I don't know full fat. But full fat Greek yoghurt. And then, like I say, I've got half a bunch of that chopped coriander, half a bunch of the chopped mint. And then a little bit of salt to taste. Okay, but we'll add that in here in the end. So, you get your bowl that you're going to make this up in. In goes our spice mix. Let's put that over there for now. Didn't use any big thingy because I thought it'll end up getting lost in there. In goes that coriander. In goes that chopped mint. Put that in there. And then, there's my Ugit. There's my Greek yoghurt. I thought if I tried to mix it all in this little bowl, I bet I'll end up not going to fit it in there. So, I'll just have to make a bigger bowl, dirty. And now we're just going to mix that all together. Okay, make sure we get that spice mixture all mixed through. And then we're just going to put it one side while we do our cucumber. So, this Raita, or Raita, whatever it is we're making, is sometimes known as dahi, or dahi, which actually refers to the yogurt or curd, or sour milk, as it properly translates to. Okay. Now for this we want about half a cucumber. Okay. Might do a little bit more, I'll see. And it translates as sour milk, but obviously with flavour in it. Now, in most Western side dishes or accompaniments, actually I might just do that other half. Ain't gonna hurt, is it? Pardon me, come back here, little bugger. In most Western sort of accompaniments, we normally add spicy things, like horseradish, that sort of thing. The idea being to spice it up a bit. But in typical Indian, cuisine, it actually is usually used to reduce the spiciness or heat. So, you know, you have it with curries, you have it with kebabs, that sort of thing. Can even have it just on flatbread. The word first appeared in print for this dish in the 19th century, and it's a Hindu word. So what we're doing with our cucumber is I'm just peeling it. Now, quite often when you have a cucumber Raita, you will have the cucumber diced, but we're going to make it look a little bit more fancy. So we're just going to have half moons. Okay, so I'm just going to get that peeled, and then I think it's a bit that time I started boring, without telling you, did I say one word there? About the muggles. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice my cucumber in half lengthways, and then we're just going to de-seed it. Personally I don't mind the seeds in cucumber, but I know a lot of people are fancy bones and they don't like it, don't they? So this Muggle cuisine, don't you dare go on the floor, you little shite. This Muggle cuisine can vary from extremely mild sort of sauces, if you like, to very spicy, and it's influenced greatly by the different seasonings and spices that went into it. Saffron could be used, not obviously in this dish. Extensive use of dried fruits, again not in this dish. Cumin, coriander, all that sort of stuff. Hence quite the variety in spiciness and flavours. Right, so now, like I said, what you could do is you can now dice this, but what we're going to do instead, we're just going to create thin slithers, if you like. Oops, stabbed himself. And we're just going to toss that into the yoghurt mix, the sour milk dip. And we'll have a little taster, and if need be, add a little bit of salt. And that then can be put to one side. We can put it in the fridge. Well, you can't in our fridge because the fridge is pretty full. And then that's ready for when our meat's cooked and we're ready to serve. So, oh, itchy nose. So that is sort of like the Mughal cuisine. Like I've just threatened just now. Now I think it's time to tell you a little bit about the Mughals. Babur. He was the first one. Right, let me get that in there, get that mixed up, and then we're almost ready to start cooking our steak. So I'm just going to gently mix that cucumber in. To be honest, I think it's a good job you use that whole cucumber. Otherwise it'd be more salt than anything else. Sauce than anything else. Right, let's have a little taster. You can just give it a couple of little pinches of salt. Mix that in. And now we're just going to set this aside, like I say, if you fit it in your freezer. Put it in your freezer, in your fridge, put it in your fridge. But that is that bit made. So, all we've got left to do now is cook our meat, and then we're just going to need to chop that final bit of mint, because we'll use that along with the juice of one lemon for our final presentation. Now you're going to want a little bit of olive oil and a knob of butter. Now I've got 2 knobs in there simply because you might need to cook your steaks like one at a time or whatever. Depends how big your steaks are, how big your pan is. You can do it in a frying pan. I'm going to do it in this simply because it's a bit deeper, because it's likely to spit. And the other thing is, we're going to do this fucking hot. And so, because we want to char the outside of the meat to make sure your smoke detectors are either not working or you've got a window open. Something. So, I'm going to put my pan, now I can't speak, over very high heat. I'm going to get nice and hot. So the Mughals were basically, like I say, it was an empire in sort of southern Asia between the 16th and 19th centuries actually. And at its peak, even not at its peak, it was even bigger, but it stretched from the sort of outer fringes of the Indus River up until sort of North Afghanistan, Kashmir, over to, in the east, Bangladesh, what we now know as Bangladesh and Assam, and the uplands of the Deccan Plateau, which I never heard of. So it was a vast sort of Indian, if you like, empire. And it was founded by its sort of first emperor, if you like, was Babur, B-A-B-U-R, and he actually reigned, in charge of this new Mughal empire, 1526 to 1530. Now, a lot of people associate Mughals with the Mongols. Not strictly true. However, Babur was a descendant of Genghis Khan on his mother's side, but that's really the only connection with the Mongols. Some Mughals still argue that they are part of the Mongol Empire, but they're not really. But he was kicked out of his sort of ancestral home in Central Asia, and as a result he thought, well, I need to find somewhere else in. So he turned down towards India. He set up his base in Kabul, which I believe is Afghanistan, and then went down through the Khyber Pass, conquering as he went. Now, there was a big renowned battle just outside Agra, which if you've ever been to India, or even if you haven't, you might have heard of Agra, fought battle, been there. There he defeated the army of Sangha, and this was like the major turning point, and this is the result, or as a result, we had these next centuries of Mughal rule, because that was sort of the last stand, as it were. And so he then decided to move his base from Kabul to Agra. So the sort of centre of the Mughal Empire was Agra. Right, now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add a little drizzle of olive oil, and we're just going to put a knob of butter in there. Now, we do that because we don't really want the butter burning in. Okay, and I'm just going to let that butter melt. I think it still needs to get a bit hotter yet. Because like I say, what the intention is we want to sort of sear the outside of this steak. Some people might want you to trim the fat off. I haven't bothered. We can do that afterwards, it's up to you. So I put 2 of the steaks in, and then I've given them a bit of seasoning, some salt, freshly ground salt and pepper. Pan could do with being a little bit hot, I think. So about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're going to flip them and season the other side. So, like I said, Babur set himself up, head of this big new empire. But he spent so much of his time like fighting, making sure people didn't sort of take their lands back and things like that, that even though he gained all this extra land, he was constantly fighting to keep it. And as a result, it became very difficult to actually keep a hold of everything. And then when his son took over, now I probably can't pronounce his name right, and his monument, or his tomb, is a famous building, if you like, Humayun or something like that. He succeeded Babur, but unfortunately his grip on the empire was a little bit, tenuous, and he eventually got pushed out by rebels, and he went over to Persia. Now, as a result of his time in Persia, he brought back a lot of Persian influences, hence this Indian Persian cuisine, if you like, that the Mughal Empire is famous for. Right, so I wouldn't say that's charred yet. So I'm just going to flip it, but I don't think that's charred enough yet. So anyway, he did in 1555 manage to get back. He came back and took over again, and he restored the Mughal Empire for most of the empire. However, a year later he had an accident and died. So it was left to Babur's grandson, Akbar, and Akbar became the first true emperor Right, I'm just going to flip them. I didn't say that's charred yet, but I don't want to cook them steak too much. And then we're just going to, like I say, season this side of the steak. Okay, I might end up flipping that again. But we'll wait and see. So Akbar became the first true Mughal emperor. But it gradually declined. And then eventually the British Raj, after they basically got a bit pissed off with the Indians rebelling in 1857, totally dissolved the Mughal Empire. So that was the end of that. So, like I say, we're just going to make sure we've cooked both sides and remove them. I might add a little bit more butter, a little bit more oil, and then we'll do that final steak. Right, I wouldn't say these are charred, but I think they're cooked enough. So I don't want to put them back in that dish where the raw one's been. So I'm just going to transfer them onto a bit of foil. A bit of oil in that butter. Don't think we want that in there, do we? So I'm just going to add a little bit more butter. I don't think we need any oil. Just going to cover them steaks. Like I say, we're going to rest them steaks for 10 minutes. Okay. So the Mughal Empire came to an end after the British, of course, being British, came in and decided, oh, okay, you've had a bit of a rebellion, so you can fuck off with your empires. Like I say, I'm now putting a little bit of salt and pepper on both sides. So that'll go on that side, and then I'll do the other side when we flip it. So from the Mughal Empire, did I call it Mughal? Mughal Empire. India got extensive road networks. We've got a currency, unified currency, but also its arts and sort of culture led to some magnificent works of art. I've already mentioned Agra, the Red Fort. I don't know that. What's she going on about again then? We did have a mention her name. And the Taj Mahal, of course, is probably, for many people, the pinnacle of the Mughal Empire. You can hear some of that pepper and some of them spices popping away there. It became sort of like one of the main pieces of sort of, say, architecture or whatever left over, known as the jewel of Muslim art in India. So where did the name Mughal come from? Well, basically it's corruption of Mongol. So sort of to do with the Mongol Empire, but not really. But it was an Arabic and Persian corruption of the word Mongol. And I'm now out of beer. What shall I drink next? Who knows? Probably going to have to be wine because I haven't got any beer left. So we're just going to let that cook a little bit longer, and then I'm going to flip it, season the other side, and then we're going to wrap that up, let that season, and we'll do our final bits with our lemon juice and our mint and coriander. So my steaks are out. They're tightly wrapped up in foil, and they're just going to rest now for 10 minutes. So final thing to do is just finely chop that remaining mint. Probably won't want to use the full amount of herbs that we got here, otherwise it'll be very herby. That Raita. It's quite herby. And we've switched to a yellowtail merlot. Actually, we've by the time this goes out, it'll be like months ago. But we've just come back from a cruise down the around the Canary Islands. Stopped off at Vigo in Spain on the way back. 36 degrees C. Wasn't quite that hot down in the Canary Islands, which is surprising because it's further south. But still bloody hot. And we had some quite nice wines on the ship, like we normally do. But strange. I mean, they're still expensive. You know, they'll charge you like 50 quid for a bottle of wine. And previous cruises we've been on, you think, well, that's nice. I'm going to take a note of that. Not that I'll pay 50 quid for it. But then actually, when you get home, you go in Tesco's and it's like £9.99. But strangely, this cruise, we just looked up some of the wines that we had on there, and actually, we were surprised that the markup wasn't as high. So although they were still a bit on the expensive side, they're sort of, or rather, they're not as expensive as you would have paid for on the ship. They are still quite an expensive wine, so I'm quite impressed about them. Anyway, just going to mix them herbs together. I'm going to chuck them in there, and then our final thing is just to get some lemon juice. Now, the recipe calls for the juice of 1 lemon, but in all honesty, I do think we're going to need 1 lemon. And I've got my new lemon juice. I keep seeing people use these, and I kept thinking, I bet that won't last 5 seconds. I've seen how to 3D print one, and I thought that won't last 5 seconds. Hinge snap. But this is actually metal. Didn't realise that. Will I do that right? I'm going to do it that way round, don't I? Look at that. I've got my little... Ooh, how did a bloody pip get out? Bloody pip in there. Let's come out the other side. What a few little trick. Fucking hell, that's hard. I'm quite impressed with it. Honestly thought, I bet it don't last 5 seconds. So, we're all done now. Final thing is, like I say, to slice that meat. Now sometimes, like I say, they would tenderize it, they'd flatten it with a mallet before they did any of that, and they'd slice it before they did any of that. But we're gonna do it after the effect. Nice little suction. Get that pip out of there. Bastard not come out. So, let's get my plates ready. Let's get this ready. Get that there. Get that there. Clean this crap away, and we'll get ready to set. Take out one of our steaks. I suddenly realised the point is cleaning me board down, because I suddenly thought, well, we'll be covering it in bloody herbs anyway, aren't I? So I'm going to get rid of this fat that's along the outside. There's a bit of meat on the end of that, but I don't care. Okay, and then what we're going to do is just slice it into... One thing I ain't got is like a meat fork, if you're with me. You know, when you see people carving up meat, you know. I haven't got a meat fork. That's not a hint, by the way. I'm just saying I ain't got one. So, then you say a little bit pink on the inside. I don't know whether you can see that there. So we've got a steak and a half each here. So just going to lay that out best I can on the plate. So that's the first steak. And now let's get to the second one, where I did notice, by the way, that third steak I did, I don't know whether it was because the butter was starting to get a little bit burnt or whatever, but that third steak did start charring a bit, although to be honest I think it was mainly the butter that was charring. This one's not quite so fatty on the outside. A bit of meat there, getting rid of. That bit of meat there, get that meat off. And that bit of meat there, get that off. So, I'm just going to continue to slice this up and between the plates, and then we'll do our final little garnishing and try it out. So, there's our steak cut. I'll give this one to the wife because she likes it a bit rarer. That other one was mainly cut from that or bit of that half that she had. This one's a little bit more well done. Just that's how I prefer it. So we'll add a little bit of lemon juice, and then we give it, like I say, you're barely going to use most of these then. A light coating of these herbs, and then put on some of the cucumber, coriander and mint Raita as an accompaniment. Like I say, you could have white rice with this, purely up to you. But here you go, there's your Pasand or Pasanda steak with cucumber, coriander and mint Raita. The steak based on an ancient or medieval, I should say, well, not really ancient, medieval Mughal recipe. So let's take a bit of steak. Nice and tender. Not sure I get an awful lot of kick from the chilli and the hot paprika that was on it, but I'm getting the lemon. Let's try my Raita. Yogurty as you'd expect, nice and refreshing, goes well with it. So there you go. Cheers from a Mughal.